Hello everybody, I hope I'm in focus this time. I've been tagged by Tom Ranger over here in the UK, and the tag is to show your favourite bushcraft stroke survival knife. Now I'll get a disclaimer in straight away. It's been quite some time since I've done anything remotely like bushcraft or any sort of extreme outdoors activity, so I'll just mention that now in case anybody decides to have a whinge. Having said that, it doesn't stop me from choosing my favourite bushcraft and survival knife. I'm taking it from the way Tom phrased the tag, that it's one knife to cover both jobs. In his last video he shows a Whitby hunting knife that it looks quite nice actually. I don't have any Whitby knives, but I've seen a few people recently comment on the fact that they're quite good value for money and seem to be quite nice quality, so I might have to have a look into them. Yeah, so he shows us this Whitby knife and says show us your favourite bushcraft stroke survival knife. So I'll put a link to Tom's channel in the box below. Go and check him out, and we'll move over to my wife's desk and have a look at what I'm going to nominate. Okay, so my choice, I'm actually going to choose two knives. The first one is a production knife, and it's this Light My Fire Mora collaboration. Now, most people looking for a basic bushcraft knife would probably choose one of the ordinary Moras, Mora Clipper for example. And there's nothing wrong with that, very capable knives. What I'm thinking for my recommendation for a bushcraft survival knife is the Light My Fire version. The reason being, well, several reasons. First of all, and this is usually about £25 to buy in the UK. If you bought an ordinary Mora Clipper and a fire steel, you'd probably be paying about the same money. Whereas here, the fire steel sits in the handle. Now it's not a massive fire steel, but in fairness it's going to take you a while to wear that out. If you're buying your first bushcraft knife, the thing for me with the ordinary Mora Companion, or Clipper as was, it is a bit dull to look at. Dark green, black. Whereas this is quite jolly. And with the fire steel in the handle, it does have, shall we say, a bit of a cool factor. Overall, it's a general Mora that we're used to. This is a stainless steel blade, which is going to be a bit easier to look after than a plain carbon. Scandi grind, although we've got this fancy bevel down the front. I think the bright green makes it easier to find. If it's going to be your first knife, you need to develop good habits and good practice, and whilst you're developing those skills, those habits, I think high visibility is going to be helpful. You've got the fire steel and the lanyard, and as I say, this is, in essence, it's your basic Mora that's tried and tested through hundreds of thousands of real world usage hours. But this one's a bit jollier. It feels a bit more of a treat when you buy it for yourself. Same quality, same reliability, and because this is a reasonably priced, fairly cheap actually, budget production knife, if anybody was interested in my recommendation, they're quite easy to get hold of. The other knife I'm going to mention is the knife that would be my actual choice for myself for a bushcraft stroke survival knife, and that is my GI Custom. And the reason I've split this off into a production knife and a custom knife is that this knife can be obtained. It's a hell of a lot more expensive than the Mora, and being a custom knife, you're going to have to pay more for it, you're going to have to wait for it. I don't know if George is still making this design. I imagine he would on request. George Icard, GI Customs. So we've got hand-tooled, handmade leather sheath, and the knife, I'll just wipe the oil off, is basically, it's a 5-inch Tanto non-sharpened swedge at the front section, 3/16 01 tool steel, and desert ironwood burl handles. Now, if you've watched my earlier videos, I did a bit of extreme testing whereby I took a basic Mora clipper and I took the GI Tanto and I used each of them to open a can of potatoes, and both of them opened the can of potatoes. But whereas the Mora sustained serious damage, repairable damage, but serious damage over almost half of the blade, the GI Custom only incurred a couple of small rolls, adding up to 3, maybe 4 millimeters of the blade at most. And as you can see, that damage has been completely corrected. Could do this all day. Why would I pick this over the Mora? Well, it's nicer, for one thing. Doing that extreme test opening the can has proved it's a damn sight more resilient, pushing the cutting edge way beyond what it's designed for, and the damage was minimal. Now, in a survival situation, I think this is going to be much more useful than the Mora type because it's much heavier, more robust. In the UK, we haven't had any particularly dangerous wildlife for a few hundred years. However, as the rewilding lobby gains popularity and gains success with each scheme that they undertake, it's now quite common, if you're out for a walk in the woods or you're out camping, to find yourself face to face with a wild boar. And at the moment, I think a wild boar is probably the scariest wildlife that most people might encounter. And if the wild boar charges you, what you'll be presented with is pretty much entirely a huge head, a big massive bony skull. You're only really realistically going to get one shot at defending yourself before the boar knocks you off your feet and you've lost any chance of controlling that situation. If you were to attack the boar from the side, then you could stab it, slit its throat, kill it in one blow easily with a Mora type blade. But if it's charging you from the front, I think there's a reasonable chance if you try and stab it in the head with that, the first half inch is just going to snap off. Whereas with a much heavier blade, you've got a much better chance of not actually snapping your knife. So this is a good size for bushcraft. It's a full flat grind with a terminal edge. So it's a good splitter for preparing your firewood. 3/16 thick, so it's about 5.5 mil, I think. maybe 5, I can't remember now. It's about 5mm. But it's a good splitting geometry. It's a good size for food prep, for general bushcrafting camping jobs. And with the Tanto point, should you need to defend yourself against, for example, a wild boar charging at you, or even if you just have it out for a walk and some dickhead's got his bull terrier off the lead, or his Rottweiler, or his, if he's a real dickhead, his Japanese Akita running free, if they decide to charge you, then you might be able to get under the head and up into the rib cage. But you might not. You might just get one chance at whatever the frontest part of the dog is. So if you're going to have to bury that right in its head, you've got a far better chance of coming out of the situation uninjured. So that's my actual personal choice out of my collection. The GI Custom Tanto 200. It's an extremely efficient tool. It's extremely well made. It's beautiful. And I think that would be a very good candidate for a general bushcraft stroke survival knife. So that's my choices. And Tom Ranger did say that he wanted to get a tag going, so I'm going to tag 2 people. First one I'm going to tag is Aussie Mark. He's done a couple of his recent vids looking at quite robust survival type knives, but I don't remember him actually nominating a favourite. So if you're watching this, Aussie Mark, let's have your favourite bushcraft stroke survival knife. And then the other nomination I'm going to do is for Andrew at Solo Bushcraft. Andrew makes some completely bonkers, excellent knives. And thinking about it, I'm wondering now, I think I may have nominated Andrew Solo Bushcraft before for a very similar tag. Oh well, if I have, it doesn't matter, it's not compulsory. But if you want to show us your favourite, whether that's one you've made yourself or a production knife, I'd be interested to see. So there you go, Tom. That's my VR to your tag. Thanks for watching.